Today we're going to talk about the push press. This is going to be our guide to help you get going on what it takes to actually do this skill and differentiate some of the details from some other skills that look similar to this. Roger, where should we start?
Let's start with a kettlebell.
Okay.
So the push press looks like this. Go ahead and do one.
Okay, that's my favorite.
And one more. Good. And that's a push press.
There you go.
So,
thanks for watching. Good luck.
So a push press is a ballistic kettlebell movement. We put it in with cleans, with swings, with snatches, with jerks. It has more of a vertical force trajectory than a horizontal force trajectory. So that's important to note when it comes to things like stance, and we'll get into some of these nuances. But one of the most important things to realize, go ahead, you don't need the bell, but go ahead and turn to the side so they can see. There's a big difference between what most people call a thruster and a push press. A thruster is going to be more of a squat. So watch the hips go back. Look at this big angle here. His body moves back and he's going to stand up and then push. A push press has a knee that comes straight forward. So if you're looking here, you've got a line between the back and the pelvis. Everything's straight up and down here. Knees are going to shoot forward. Okay, so that's one important difference. So the knees moving forward. The second thing that's really important to realize with the push press is, again, that it's a ballistic movement. Most of what is moving your kettlebell is your legs. Now, one thing that we notice when we work with students is sometimes you'll see, can you do a bad push press for me? Which is basically a knee drive and a press. So we'll see something like that, or maybe the knees bring it up a little bit. There we go. That's a little harder to detect. But essentially what that is a strict press with a little bit of momentum. So what we're looking for, if we see the kettlebell maybe get to here and noticeably you're already starting to press it, we don't think that's a push press. This is an arbitrary standard. What we're looking for is the legs to launch this kettlebell and for you to basically lock it out. So we look for a press to start probably right around the top of the head just to finish the movement. Okay, again, this is not a strict standard. You'll know it when you feel it, but you want to have a really, really strong drive with the legs. One of the important differences between your push press, your swings and your snatches is the fact that the kettlebell does not need to swing back between your legs. So go ahead and take a push press stance. If you were to get into this stance with a clean or a swing or a snatch, you'd probably hurt something. Okay? So he can start with the bell starts in the rack. Now, so this is going to give him a narrower stance. As I said earlier, the force trajectory, so the path of the bell is going to be largely vertical, which means we want a stance that's going to support that. He's putting force into the ground. That force is going to, basically the ground is going to push back on him, push him up. He's going to use, that force is going to go through his body, transfer into his arm, make the bell move. Okay, that's the very, very basic physics of the thing. So he wants the line of force to be directly underneath the bell if he can, if that's comfortable for him. So he's going to have a slightly narrower stance. Do a quick clean and then a push press for me. So notice immediately he widens his stance and notice how he steps in. So he took this foot and he moved it toward that foot. So everything was narrower. Now when he's pushing force into the ground, it's moving straight up.
Got my hat.
What weird noise is that? So this is going to be the stance. Really important here. Now, another thing that's important to, as I just said, put force into the ground pushes back, that force goes up through the torso. He needs to get that force from the torso into the kettlebell. This is the link, it's the arm. So if you were to go around here, there's no space in between his arm and his body. A very, very common mistake when people are beginning to push press is either they have a rack that's here, so there's no contact there, or what happens is shoot your butt back. So immediately you see this space here. As soon as the butt, go ahead and stand up. As soon as the butt shoots back, watch that. That opens up. Now there's no more, when he goes up, there's no more connection, or the connection's late as the arm is falling back down. So he's missing out on some of that leg drive. So we want to make sure there's good arm to body contact to take the bell and propel it upwards. So narrow stance, connect the arm to the body. A simple way to make sure that the arm stays in contact with the body is to put something in between the arm and the body. So go ahead and clean your bell for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put this, it's a 1 pound wrist or ankle weight. I'm going to put this in here. When I go back and I watch the video, whether you're doing video of a student, you're taking your own video, what you want to watch for is at what phase does this drop? So when he has his arm connected, the weight should not fall until he's roughly in the position that he is now, because his dip and his knee drive, you see there's nothing, that hasn't slipped. So we're looking for it to fall out right about here. So go ahead and do a push press. So if you go back and you watch that slowly, you're not going to see the weight fall until he's finished completing the drive with his legs. And again, we also know that the hips aren't coming back, because if the hips come back, that's going to fall out. So
let's do it again.
Yeah. So this is what it's going to look like if he brings his hips back. Okay, he didn't exaggerate anything. That's just what happens. So this is a really easy way to keep yourself honest. Make sure that the arm to body contact is happening. So a second drill is a little float drill to teach the actual use of the legs. Because people want to finish with the arm and they want to turn it into a press, it's common they miss the idea of the legs. And what this drill does, really, really solid, what this drill does is it teaches you how to put force into the ground, and you're not even going to press it out all the way. So you're not even worried about your shoulder. You're gonna get your stance, you go through your clean, your stance, arm to body contact, and you're just going up and down and watching that bell float. Notice he's not gonna press that up all the way. He's going into his dip, he's going into his drive, and he's letting that bell pop up. We need to finish the push press now. So we've gone through all the steps so far. He's gotten a great drive through his legs, transfer the force up through his torso. That bell is getting to, let's say, right about here-ish. All he's got to do is lock it out. Nothing really fancy here. Just make sure that, one, you're not pushing too soon, because then it becomes a press. And two, you want to push aggressively. As he's driving all that force into the ground, and the ground's, driving force back into him, as that bell becomes ballistic, it's going to essentially weigh nothing here. So he wants to catch it at a point where it's moving up. If you were to actually let go of the bell, it would keep rising on its own. So for practical purposes, that bell's not going to weigh anything. Anytime you're doing kettlebell ballistics, ideally you want to move the bell when it doesn't weigh anything. So we don't want to see a big drive and then a stall and then a lockout. Right? What we want to see is we want to see him launch that bell and do a quick lockout just to finish it. Again, we want to move the bell when it doesn't weigh anything. So it's going to look a little bit like this. Okay. A lot easier on the shoulder.
It's like nothing.
Well, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Get a heavier kettlebell.
It's like something.
So we have the bell at the top, right?
Yep.
Now we need to bring it back down. There are two different drop styles that you can use. I like to use a slower drop style because I really like to build my press. It's intentional. So go ahead and show us the... Go ahead and use it.
Oh, okay.
This is good. We do some miming in our spare time. So he's just gonna bring that down. It's really essentially the negative of a strict press. A little extra work. So this is gonna be more a, let's say, strength move versus an endurance move. So
yeah, someone you're like trying to maybe bell up your press or something, it's a good way to get there.
Sure. So let's say you can't quite get that beast up and you want to use a little leg drive to get that up. Cool. Lower it down slowly. Do a bunch of those. It'll help you build your press. The second drop style is going to be a little more fluid. And he's just going to catch. Now, from this catch, notice he's dipping and he's absorbing. So he's waiting until the arm reconnects with his body. Then he takes that force, that momentum from the bell falling, and he brings it back into his legs. Okay. Now, you can, with this particular style, do push presses a lot faster. So if you're doing your push press and then you're controlling your negative, then you go in again. It's going to be a bit slower, but if these you can link one after the other. So rather than just absorbing the weight, he's immediately turning around using that momentum, using that potential energy from the bell falling, and bouncing it right back up.
Now, when I do the drive, can my heels come off the ground?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. They
absolutely, absolutely they can. I was just saying that for him. The technical term is triple extension. So you can come off the ground if you want to lift the heel. For whatever reason, I think it has to do with body type, weight distribution. Some people feel comfortable with that. I do not. He does.
I actually don't really.
Don't?
No, I mostly try to keep it down. Sometimes it creeps in, but I never really actively try.
The important thing with triple extension, if your weight is forward, it's going to be easier for you to lift the heel. If you tend to have more of the weight in the heels, it's going to be harder to lift those, obviously. But with triple extension, you can leave the ground, totally cool. The important thing though is when you're absorbing the weight, bring the heel down first. Don't try to
toe weight.
Yeah.
What do they call it, a sissy squat?
Yeah, look, and those are awesome for conditioning. Nothing wrong with that. But when you have a kettlebell screaming back down toward the earth, it's probably not the best idea. So if you're ready for it, you're ready for it. But as a general recommendation, make sure the heel makes contact with the ground before you absorb the bell. Let's talk about the breathing. The power breath is something we use to maintain tension. When he's going to go into his knee drive, you're going to hear a quick exhale. It's going to tense the abs. It's going to make the torso more rigid. When that torso is rigid, it's going to better be able to transfer its force from it to the arm to the kettlebell. So what you're going to see is after he cleans, you're going to notice as he drives, he gets into his drive, quick exhale, a quick hiss. He's going to get to the top. He's going to inhale. This inhalation puts air back into the midsection because this is also part of our tension. When the abs contract, they're contracting against the air in this cavity. So it's also going to give him air for his next rep or subsequent reps. If you don't plan an inhale, eventually you're going to run out of oxygen, and exercise is hard without oxygen. Try it. So he'll do his power breath. He'll inhale here. Now, power breaths are good for creating tension. So he's going to do a power breath again when he receives that kettlebell because he wants the abs to contract against that air that he just put back into the rib cage.
Let's see it in action.
So power breath, inhalation, power breath. And that's how it's done.
All right, let's go ahead and do this push press from start to finish. Obvious prerequisite is you're going to have to be able to clean and get your arm overhead. So let's assume that you can do that, and let's get right into it. I'm going to clean the bell first, and I step in at the same time. If you want to separate it, you can clean your bell and then step in. Remember, we want that narrow stance. Take a look if you need to. We're going to bend at the knees, going forward and pushing through the ground. That's going to project the bell through our body with all that force, and up above, we get into a lockout. From here, we're going to hit the drop with the knee bend. If you prefer to drop without a knee bend, pull it down, and now you can begin again. That's all there is to it. Have fun, and stay strong.